Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul? What a day it Yes, it was another wild day in the markets. Welcome everyone to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, the goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. May talk about some markets that you have not traded, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity. We want to see how we can take advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. This is our first time meeting. I'm Coach Jay, been a Topstep performance coach since June of 2023, trading for the past 14 years and in the futures markets for the past 7, and that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep since April of 2023. I've been involved in the futures trading industry for 4 decades. I'm here. Can't hear me again?
You should be good now. You should be good.
I've been involved in the futures trading industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share some of my experience, some knowledge, and hopefully help you become a better trader.
March of 2025.
Stuff. Thank you for that, Coach Paul. You are all our chat, our audience. Thanks for hanging out with us every day that you do, especially on a Friday after the markets close. Let us know how you did today, this week. Were you up on the week, down on the week? Anything that you learned from this week? Follow your plan. Did you follow somebody else's plan? How did that work out for you? Let's talk about it. This is a wild week for sure. We're going to recap all of it, but I did have some numbers that came out this morning. We did have PCE come out pretty much in line with expectations, came out 2.8% year over year. Forecast was 2.9. Month over month came in at 0.3%. Forecast was 0.3. GDP quarter over quarter estimates came in at 0.7%. Forecast was 1.4. Canadian employment change came in at negative 83.9 thousand. Forecast was 10,000, so a big miss there. We did have a what was the other number? Michigan sentiment came out at 55.5. Forecast was 54.8, and JOLTS job openings came in a little bit higher than expected. 6.946 million. Forecast was 6.75 million. Wild day in the markets. Anything else you want to talk about in the news, Coach Paul?
Much the same news as we talked about yesterday, and none of it is good for equities
No.
or crude oil. So much the same on the news front.
Much the same. ZooWop TV, 10K week. Let's go. Nice job. Nice job. Bugs up on the week. Green for subject. Follow my plan. Followed my inner voice. Up 5K between my 2 XFAs. Nice job. Billy up on the week as well. 3 out of 5 green days. I had 3 out of 5 green days as well. Down a little bit on the week. Down about $400 on. The wins were smaller than the losses this week for me, but it was good to get these last 3 days. Just put something on the board. So looking forward to next week. There's going to be more volatility for sure. Let's take a look at the quote board. We got 36 different markets we can trade with Topstep accounts, and today to the downside, we had natural gas down 3.09%, silver down 5.65%, and platinum, our biggest percentage mover to the downside, down 6.75%. To the upside, we had heating oil up 2.72%, RBOB gasoline futures up 2.76%, and crude oil, our biggest percentage mover to the upside, up 3.06%. To talk about our big four, we had, like we just mentioned, crude oil up 3.05%, the S&P up S&P down 0.7%, gold down 2%, 2.07%, and the NASDAQ just over 0.75% to the downside, down 0.78%. Let's start with the weekly in the NASDAQ. That's nasty looking. What are you seeing here, Coach Paul?
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Why is that nasty looking? That curvature, lower highs, lower lows, finishing at where we're at right now, lows of the week. It's not a healthy chart if you're long. If you're short, flip that around, and you got a rounding bottom, but this is a rounded top. Starting what else does this say? This is heavy action, and this week, look at there was there wasn't much for bulls to talk about.
No.
I mean, this to me is that shows liquidation.
Yeah. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. We took a look at being green on the year, but the NASDAQ right now, if you look at it, is down about 4% on the year right now, from the all-time high, which we made all the way back in October. We are down about 8.5%. Really ugly week here. I'm pulling up another platform because I want to see where we are in relation to. We're probably pretty far from it. Yeah, we're well away from it. I was looking at the 200 weekly moving average, but on the daily, we are below it. 200-day moving average closed below it.
Again,
Yeah, again, this is pretty heavy action here. Again, to me, it reminds me a lot of 2025's price action. I think there's some news and headlines out there that I think Coach Paul, you were saying yesterday, maybe reminds you of 2008's action.
yeah,
Fundamentally, what's going on. But a pretty strong close under that 200-day moving average for the second day in a row. Up near the upper extreme of the range today. That 200 moving average is
yeah,
at 24,747. Anything you got on this daily, Coach Paul?
yeah. That wick
Mm,
touched, I think, almost to the tick, the
yeah,
200 moving average, which was after the opening. We'll go over that. And boy, it didn't take long for sellers to come in. Um, I mean, it looked good. We'll go through it, but that was, and the finish at the lows of the day.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Very heavy action.
yeah, very heavy action.
Very heavy. We'll take a look at the 30-minute.
So
What's
following
that white
close of
line
the
up
US
there?
cash equities markets, just look into the market wrap for today's
Wait,
session.
let me turn off Financial Juice audio because you guys
The
can probably
volatility
hear
gripped
that.
Wall Street as stocks fell and
As soon
oil
as I
climbed to a
find
more than
where that
three-year high,
is.
while the war in Iran intensified.
Oh, you know what? While you're doing
The
that,
bond rally
Yeah, go
favored
ahead, Coach.
well, there's
surging energy prices
200
fueled
moving
inflationary
average
concerns.
on the half
The
hour
S&P 500
is
raised
lined up with the 200 on the daily.
Yeah, there's like it's like a 50 point difference between the two. That's a zone.
That's a zone. And that also is very, very bearish overall.
Agreed. Agreed. Last night's open. Take a look there. Look at where the 200 is. But last night's open, we got here. Like I said, I had a winning day today. A little back and forth action for me today. Was trying to get short the equities last night on this here. One of the things we talk about is if VWAP doesn't leave a range, that's potentially opportunity to fade back into the range. I just took it a little bit early. I was shorting on the way up, but really nice rejection in the overnight session up at these 650s. And we were talking about volume profiles yesterday. I want to pull up a regular trading hour volume profile from yesterday, and you can see where that point of control was, right? So nice rejection up there at the regular trading hour point of control from last night, or from yesterday in the overnight session. Really nice sell-off. Who here joins Coach Paul's pivot class? Is your first support, Coach Paul? NASDAQ. What price was that?
Oh, 24,402.
Below here, 24,397. You got to get better, Coach Paul.
I'm working on it, Coach. I'm working on
You
it.
got to get better. And that was what I was targeting, right? If on that short, Aaron says she usually joins. On that short, that's what I was targeting, right? And I think with the flow that we saw, it was a reasonable trade, but who am I to say it was a good trade at all if I didn't take a part of it, right? So for me, if I'm reviewing, right idea, I was definitely shorting early. I was short from somewhere near 610s. And ideally, I think I should have waited for a test of this point of control before doing that. So, when you put the puzzle pieces together, that is a real target. And we can see that was a level that was relevant for the rest of the session. We kind of consolidated around that first level of support there for a while. But then a really nice rally off of it overnight. These are huge moves. These markets continued to present opportunities to trade on both sides. This is a 400-point rally. But when we got back up into the zone, Coach Paul, more sellers.
More sellers. Also notice like last night, because I also got stopped out of a short, but I wasn't awake for the time in the NASDAQ where it closed below session VWAP,
Here.
right? And that's where it really never, it ticked, but never closed above that session VWAP where it had heavy selling. Something a pattern I've been noticing lately. But holding that first level of support, I mean, what a rally. And this starts to, when we talk about volatility, this is a classic bear market rally.
Yes.
It is vicious. It really stems from the selling stopped. Because you look, there's a series under that VWAP, and we have heavy selling that stops.
Yeah. And we get one of the highest volume 30-minute candles of the day.
Yeah.
At that time.
And just, so it wasn't, to me, that's not indicative of heavy buying or good buying. It's just the selling stop, bargain hunters, whatever. The seller or whatever it is. I don't, but boy, what a rally into the opening, into PCE. And it looked really good after the opening. If we go to your 3-minute opening range.
Yep. We'll take a look here. 3-minute opening range on the open. Again, here's that PCE candle. There was more volume at 8:45 Eastern time. That was not when PCE was announced. It was a late number or something this morning, whatever it was. We rallied on the open, like Coach Paul was just saying. Here is that New York session open on the 3-minute. Really nice rally. Shout out to Dakota. Bought the dip here. We kind of looked at that full session VWAP when the New York session didn't leave the range to the downside. This looked like a really nice trade to start the morning. I'm gonna put let's put another moving average on here so we can stay on the 3-minute chart. But that 200 moving average up there on the 30-minute, which is a 2,000 moving average on the 3-minute, to the tick. What is that white line? Talk about it all the time, and a perfect test of it. And by the time VWAP was leaving the opening range, the price was already coming back down. So really nice trade. That's a 200-point move to the upside before we found some selling. But the higher time frame took control up there, Coach Paul.
Yeah, and I got caught in that. I got long, got stopped out.
Yeah.
Now, why I bring that up, it didn't get over the 200, but, I played that opening range breakout trade. I kept my stop in, but I got information. That rejection, keep that 3-minute. The first time I got stopped out, it was above session VWAP.
Okay.
Took my loss. Look at this. Now, the next time it went through, it got under session VWAP, the red VWAP. And, you've told me before, I take one side of the market.
Yeah.
This gave me a reason to turn.
Nice.
And I made up. I had a decent day, but at that point, I got punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
But it's new information. So this rejection just added. Also, that was, I think that was the 200-day moving average, and in the NASDAQ was right around 24,690.
Yeah, all up in this zone here, right? That rejection. Yeah.
So we've talked about you get fragmented information, but you get more information. Yeah. So that was big information because I was bearish to begin with. But look at the collapse after it got under session VWAP. It was like it loaded people up one way, waiting for buying, where larger players went, okay, let it rip, and Rip, they did.
And that view upheld pretty much the rest of the day. We did trade above it for a little bit, but not very convincing. Really nice resistance against that. FVG Trade says all indicators follow price action. Ain't that true? Can't we just trade on open, high, low, close from the prior day candle? You can, if there's a way for you to trade that way. Open, high, low, close. There's a strategy to do anything you want in the markets, really. Not one that I have. Do I look at prior day highs and lows for potential areas of interest? I do, but if you were looking at prior day high for something today, didn't really give you a whole lot, right? So I think, is there a way to do it? Absolutely. I've heard some people say, you don't get short in a market until it looks below a prior day's low. I think that could be a strategy, but it is a very finite, and I tried not to speak in absolutes in the market because I just marked prior day low, right? 24.57. What was that prior day low? 24.517, right? If I say I only get short below prior day's lows, and I got short right here because it looked below prior day low, what happens? 100 points, 170 points to the face, right? So whatever you do, it has to have, I think maybe multiple confluences and risk management over everything.
Once again, you can do that. If what I would say is back test.
Mhm.
If it has an edge, absolutely you can do that. But when we go back to it, you have to trade something, a process that you can execute. That's where your edge is. So yeah, I mean, I know guys who traded wheat based on lunar phases.
Hey.
And they did it for years.
Yeah. Trading is pattern recognition, right? So if you can identify a pattern in anything, it's not to say that pattern is right or wrong. It's, am I comfortable putting risk behind it? That's all it is.
There was a trader in the pork belly pit, the pork bacon.
Okay.
And he wore moccasins.
Okay.
And he was a successful trader. And the reason I heard he wore moccasins, he wanted to feel the energy in the pit. And he traded from that.
Hey.
So no matter what it is, it has to be consistent and it has to be measured. You cannot
feel the energy through his feet.
Yeah.
I mean, if it makes money, it doesn't have to make sense.
Yeah, whatever it is. I don't. Right. Without risk management, all right, and consistency, then nothing works.
Yeah.
So
is it
repeatable?
Right. There's something there. Taking a look at the S&P on the daily, another one below that 200 moving average. We'll do a quick look at the Russell. Not at it yet, but the Russell was pretty heavy today as well. What is that white line up there on the 30-minute? That 200 moving average. Man. Anything else you got on the equities, Coach Paul?
Well, Russell helped me gain some of my losses from the early NASDAQ.
There you go.
Because that was a little heavier.
It was.
I mean, when it went, like, it meant business.
Yeah, that Russell volume never left that 3-minute opening range.
No, it didn't. Because I was looking at it. I was looking for a sell. Yeah. Now, when it did leave, look at what it did. Went back and tested it. And I think it got even more selling. Either way, that 200 why did I take any buys? So even that, I got the 200 half-hour moving average was respected all day across all the equities. So this weekend when I do my review, I'm going to note that. Why did you take the buys underneath the 200?
Coach Paul, we have blue at the highs on the Russell also.
Oh.
I wanted to get short so bad. I was driving the show. I wanted to short the Russell up here. We had what I'm saying to Coach Paul there is we had some volume absorption. You guys know I use on tower power trades. There was a power trade right at the high that we've identified as sometimes a very clear indication of a potential high or low of the day. It's kind of the same high volume read that we make, but it was right at 520s, 2520s. You can see we came back and tested it and rejected off of that. Just some buying absorption up there that right at that 200 moving average. That is the perfect puzzle. If you're not driving a show where okay, now it's time to get short. So nice trade there, Coach Paul. Anything else on the equities you got?
Nothing else. And
Yeah.
one thing, shout out, yeah, Coach Hoop in the pork bellies. And so this would be in the 1980s. This trader.
Yep. Balaji in the chat says, what opening range breakout do you suggest? Some say wait for the break and retest of the orb before taking it to the upside or downside. Some get in as soon as the candle closes outside of the orb. For me, the way I like to do it, and again, everyone's going to be a little different. There's so many different ways to do this, right? Some people are going to say wait for, a 30-second opening range. Some people are going to do 15-minute opening range. I just use 3-minute charts, so I always look at a 3-minute opening range, or a 30 in the overnight session. But what I like to do, Balaji, and I don't do this all the time, but if I had to set rules behind it, in order for me to take an opening range trade, price and volume ideally have to leave the range at the same time. That's something that I think I added to my trading maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and we've just kind of refined it over time. But look at it this way, and the reason I do that because opening range breakout failures happen all the time. That's what the Russell was today. And if you use the criteria that price and volume have to leave the range, that makes this an amazing short opportunity. Obviously, we can say that in hindsight, but if price is advertising higher and volume isn't, there's a higher likelihood that we revert back to the range. And when volume starts to leave the range, which was not until an hour into the session, that's when we get a much cleaner trade. So use whichever one you want. For me, opening range breakouts happen when volume leaves the range, not just price. And a lot of times I'm taking the fades, right? There's an opening range fade if there's no volume that goes with it. Not to say that this was going to guarantee to turn out to be this 2% down day, but fade back into the range. Anything you want to add there, Coach Will?
No, you mentioned something. It's in hindsight.
Yeah.
Well, when you study past patterns, you find out, but this back testing, that they're repeatable.
Yep.
Doesn't mean they're 100%. There is no 100%. There's probability. The future is always uncertain. The moment you start saying this time for sure, don't get in. So, but we've noticed this pattern.
Yeah.
And in those patterns, if you're going to have ones that don't work.
Yep.
And this is the key. If you're over leveraged, the one that doesn't work is going to ruin you.
Mm-hmm.
Because that really is, you're just flipping a coin.
Yeah.
So we review. We've done this for 3 years now. Is it 3 years?
3 years. Yeah, 3 years. 2 years on YouTube.
Well, for those years, we've been repeating these patterns.
Yeah.
And they don't all work, but if you position, if you get the right position size, you're not over leveraged.
Yeah.
And that pattern is in how many markets we look at? 20 plus markets.
Yeah, it's gonna show up somewhere.
It gives you an edge that you can trade. But I will tell you this, and you've never heard it from either of us. You have to make this trade. This is the one. We're not. This isn't.
That works.
Markets don't work that way. If someone is selling you that, just turn around and run.
Yep.
But that one that blew at the highs, it was that.
Yeah, that was
Wow.
nice. That was nice. And if anyone starts doing a course on opening range urgency trades, just tell them I'm taking commissions. Shout out to Brian Shannon for the anchored VWAP though. You got to give credit where credit is due. That is why I use it in my trading. But if they call it an urgency trade, taking commission. All right. Anything else you got on the equities before we move on to? We'll go to gold and then we'll go to the energies to end it.
All right.
Take
Let's
a
go to gold. Let's start with the weekly.
Weekly in gold. Don't look good.
Oh,
Did you
that's
hear
messy.
that JP Morgan was bullish to the dollar, Coach Paul?
Well, they have a flair for the obvious, I guess. No, because the currency's all plummeted.
Yep.
We talked the euro currency. We'll get to that. Maybe we'll go over that real quick. But yeah, I saw that. I'm like, I guess they sold it beforehand. Or
Right. Dollar's about to tank for the next week.
yeah. So gold. That is not healthy. Well, it's
Yeah.
not bearish. It's really lost its upward momentum. But look at all the wicks until this week. The wick on the top this week,
Yeah.
finishing at the lows.
Yep.
That is not friendly. And on top of that, in that there's a war going on in the middle of the Middle East, and crude oil is rallying.
Yeah.
Now, gold has already made its move. It seems to me that there's cashing in. Like, or some entities need, you see stronger dollar. You see interest rates are really starting to rise at a pretty good clip. One hold gold at 5,000. I mean, if I make a narrative, that's not, when interest rates are going up, you're foregoing interest when you hold gold. Now, at this level, we've had the move. We had that huge sell-off. We're at 50% on the weekly.
Yeah.
Seems to me, look at the volume. Seems to me there's some liquidation going on here.
I would agree with you there. Gold has been one of my favorite trades this week, yesterday and today. Again, made most of my profits shorting gold. 20-day, this is the daily chart here. 20-day moving average, pretty much the high of the session. 51.3240, it was the high of the session. 20-day moving average at 51.3190. So pretty much to the tick there on that 20-day moving average. And between that and the 50, and then you got that 50.25, which is 50% of the 3-day sell-off that we had in gold. Just a beautiful trade today. Too many white lines on the screen. Hold on. Take off the 2000. All right. Let's look at last night's open. In gold, decent rally. Who was that asking? Balaji asking which opening range breakout trade to take, right? Or which one to look at. We were saying in the overnight, because there's lower volume, the reason, let's add a little bit more context to it. The reason I think we're looking at a 200 moving average, a 30-minute opening range in the overnight session is because you give more volume time to pass through the markets. Same concept here though, right? You could apply this on any time frame. Price and volume leaving the range together, there's a decent trade here. Now, is it going to be the trend for the day? Only if volume continues to trade. But in this case, I'm pretty sure that was yesterday's point of control. Highest volume candle from yesterday. Look to the left. This is one of my favorite ways to chart, support resistance. Find the highest volume candle on a 30-minute or a 3-minute or whatever time frame you use from a prior day. Sometimes it's relevant. And today it was. What's up, Coach?
What time was that candle?
Which one?
Oh,
The one from yesterday?
The highest volume.
10 Central yesterday.
Yeah.
See something here. I want to look at a volume profile. It usually ends up being in the same spot, right? If you look at a volume profile or the highest volume candle. Nope, it wasn't. Let's check regular trading hours. There you go. Regular trading hour volume profile. It's right up there. So for me, without
So
using the volume profile, that's the quick way for me to find it. Go ahead, coach.
it's the pivot for gold was 51.27. Okay.
Yeah. They're like maybe you guys have heard this joining here. The last thing I've added to my trading most recently, and I haven't added really much of anything to my trading in the past year and a half, pivot points. Thank you, Coach Paul. You're just Frankensteining this trading strategy together, and those pivot points was like the last stone in what's
Look
his
at how
name?
they added up with that point of control.
Thanos. Yeah.
That was like the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, quite a move. When we rejected it twice, it's almost the candles almost look exactly the same.
Oh yeah,
when they
they
got
do.
up there.
They do.
And
Now, go ahead, coach.
no, go ahead. I don't want to show you. I had a
The-
trade in there.
The way you can read this in real time, right? Because until that point, we were rallying. But what is one of the things I always look at in any trade that I take is where is volume in relation to this? Now, this was a beautiful trade long in gold if you were to take this above 5100s, really nice push. And if I'm long, maybe I don't get short right away up here, but if I'm long, the question I have to ask myself is when we get to horizontal price levels, what is the market's response? Right? So if I'm long, I'm rallying, I'm good, right? I'm the best trader in the world. Gold's going to all-time highs. All I got to do is sit here and make money. But when we get to a horizontal level, which was that point of control or the pivot 5127s, in order for us to keep trading higher, I need volume to continue to trade higher as well. What does VWAP do when we get to that point of control? It starts to flatten out. So maybe I don't get short right away, but that's a warning sign to longs that, hey, you need to do a lot more work in order for us to continue to trade higher, right? Because volume stopped here. And, you know, maybe you don't get short, but I got to take something off the table if the rest of the market doesn't agree with me. And just a beautiful opportunity to sell off of that point of control and that pivot a couple of times today. But you said you had a short, Coach Paul. Talk to us about it. And there was also that COMEX close trade that played out pretty well again today. Go ahead.
Yeah. The look at the second time we rallied up to that pivot today. Okay, the second time on the second rally. At that time, that was the highest volume, buy volume.
Yes, it was.
So we had that buying, which was rejected in the next half an hour at the pivot. So I put attach an anchored VWAP to that high. When it broke the low, I sold micro.
That's an urgency trade.
That's an urgency trade. Willing to now, by the way, but that's an urgency trade.
Mm-hmm.
That had structure. It was the failure. I just think, and one of the things, just not selling a price.
Yeah.
Selling the failure, and we've done it. The failure was the close below it.
Yep.
Below that candle, risking that candle. Now on a micro, that was like $300. I mean,
Yeah.
it doesn't look like much, but look
Got
what
you 2 to
happened.
1.
Oh yeah, I did. But just price on them with the more, and I got to throw this back to you, Coach. This is volume matters. With volume alone is hard enough.
Yeah.
Price alone is hard.
Yeah.
But working with you for these years with your volume analysis, you tie it together. It's volume and price. Gives you a much clearer picture.
Yeah.
And when I'm on the floor, and I'll tell this story again, You could tell when the volume stopped, and it wasn't counting the buys and sells. It was literally the audible volume. At that point, there was large trading going on. It gets to a point, and I'm telling you, all of a sudden, it just gets quiet. And then it started drifting lower. I found that as a good place to sell for a scalp. Here we see it in anchored VWAP, session VWAP. Watch when we got under session VWAP.
Let me put it back on this screen here in just a second. Inputs. That red again. Probably the most important line on my screen. All right, there you go. Back under session VWAP here. Once we crossed above it into that point of control, back under it. Okay, so that's why I started getting short. Not on the candle that did it, but we talked yesterday about triggers, right? And a trigger is price action and volume in a certain direction. Getting back under this session VWAP here, Coach Wall, with this highest volume candle, this candle is now my risk limiter. Above this, I don't want to be in, but that's where the volume started to pick up. That's where I'm getting short. Right back under that session VWAP, like you mentioned. Yeah, just putting the puzzle pieces together.
Yeah. With intention. But I'll don't enter any of these trades without what?
Risk defined.
Risk defined. And someone asked me a question earlier on Discord.
Okay.
And it was about I'm trading, I'm making good calls, but I'm losing money. When I hear that, what I'm hearing is, oh, I have to be, that's what he said. I'm losing money because I'm glued to the screen and I make bad decisions. If you're confident you have an edge, you need to get to a point where you're looking only for those trades, and you've done it enough and you're confident enough that you can put the position on with a stop and a target price and walk away or do something else. And I'll ask in the chat how many times you put on a trade and you're staring at it, and what starts happening in your mind.
Overthink the negative.
Yeah, well, every tick is yay, and every negative tick is no, they're against me. And then you lose your courage. You lose your, it's almost by design. The voices start talking. You start going when it was up 200. Now I'm only up 110. I should have got out.
Yeah.
All these things when you're just staring at it. What if you're confident it's okay. I'm making an intentional trade here. Think intention that I'm willing. And when we go back to that predefined risk, you're willing to take it. If you're not willing to take it, don't take the trade. Because another thing is cutting off winners. We don't talk about that a lot. Those add up.
Yeah, they do.
Because when you're watching and it's like, oh, okay, well, when it curls back against you, the temptation is I should have got out. And one of the crazy parts is working with Peter Stottlemyre is he says, buy low, sell high doesn't work. And it was like, what are you talking about? But he meant in that situation I was just describing, every high and low starts becoming a personal affront.
Yeah.
It's just find the trade, put it on, measure the risk. And if you're having troubles, I can almost guarantee you it's coming from staring at every tick. And I can say that because I've been through it. That's why I put it on now when I watch another market.
Set and forget
So,
it.
Set it and forget it.
Set it and forget it. Dina in the chat says, my wins are bigger when I just don't watch. It's hard though. One of the things you can do, put the trade on, like Coach Paul's just said, and literally walk away. It's really hard. When I was training myself how to do that, I would, if I enter on a 5-minute or a 3-minute, zoom out to the 30 and just let the markets work. We can get very caught up in those shorter time frames, and then you're analyzing how many data points, right? If you're on a 1-minute chart, from the time the New York session opens, to the time it closes, you are analyzing 390 data points. My brain can't process that much information in a day. Not well, not efficiently, right? Think about it that way. You can't, if you stay glued to every 1-minute candle, 390 data points. That's a lot. As opposed to a 30-minute. What is there? 13? A little
yeah.
easier. Zoom out. Zoom out once you make put your decisions on. There was a question from
One last point on that.
Yeah,
and
go
I
ahead,
wanted
Coach.
to say, no matter how much we worry a trade, it makes no difference in the market.
Nope.
I had to come to that conclusion.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, so like as much as I want to cheer it or worry about it, literally makes no difference.
None. Market does not care. Market does not care at all. There was a question here from Dante. On your pivots, are you marking bodies or wicks? So when we talk about pivots, Coach Paul, we ready to share it or what? Sharing the sauce. You do the class in Discord.
Yeah.
Pull up pivot points here. I got them ready.
Okay, pull them up.
Pull them up. All right. Let's hit that thumbs up button if you can. We'll do a favor. Again, this is the last thing I've added. Got to thank Coach Paul for that. Take a look at some pivot points real quick. Again, traders use a bunch of different platforms and indicators you can use. They're not on Topstep X just yet, but maybe coming in the future. But I use Quantower for pivot points. You can use TradingView as well, or you can draw them manually on your charts after joining Coach Paul's class.
That's what I do.
That's what you do, right? But here we go. When we're talking about pivot points, we're talking about horizontal price levels that you can see on these charts here. So you got a couple of lines on this screen. The green line is the pivot point, right? So in this case, I have it at 51.13 in gold. And depending on the calculation, it may be slightly off, but same idea. So a couple lines I have here. The yellow line is VWAP for the full session. The green line is the pivot point, 51.13. Now, the way I'm reading this, and I think the way Coach Paul is reading it as well, and what we kind of been talking about is what does volume do once we get to a pivot point? And in this case, price traded above the pivot, volume didn't, right? VWAP stopped actually right at that pivot point. So I'm looking at anything above this as empty price action. This is the most sauce we could give out on this channel.
All right. I'll start bringing them up.
Yeah.
Yes. If you're watching on a Friday,
Yeah.
hit that like button.
Hit the like button.
You've been here, and we'll start incorporating it.
Yeah. And
now, one thing is that I will note is that pivot point was different from mine.
Okay.
Is I use the settlement.
Okay, got you.
Probably uses the close.
Yes.
And the close is almost 3.5 hours after the settlement.
Yes. Okay. Yes. So it'll be a little bit different.
It would be a little different. Why I use settlement is more important than the close, because that's where the money has to be. The big money has to pay up margin.
Mm-hmm.
It's a much more important level.
So ours are normally off in the metals because the settlement and close are different, but on the equities we usually have them at the same price. Yeah,
because there's a lot less difference. We made a new low on the S&P and the NASDAQ.
Gold as well here made a new low. Yeah. But now the blue line is the first support, the red line is the first resistance, and you can see where the target was. And again, is it always going to work out like that? It's not, right? We would be naive to even think that. And if you just blindly sell after it breaks down off this pivot, the markets choose how they're going to get to a destination, right? So depending on where my risk is here, I had a trade that was 45 points in the profit if I took that short, but it did come back, trade above it, and then go back down, right? So, just another horizontal price level. I love them. They adjust based on the volatility of the markets from the prior day. My explanation I got from Coach Paul. We'll take a look at the NASDAQ really quick. Similar story here. Did you have similar pivots here? 24,678 in the NASDAQ, Coach Paul?
24,675. So yeah.
Yep.
That's about a tick in
Right.
NASDAQ.
Yeah. Here we go again, though, right? Price trades near that pivot zone, and this is the NASDAQ, so you have to call everything a zone. See that reaction at the first support? Get to the first support, first test of it, what happens? Volume stops, trading lower. If I'm watching this and I'm short, I can't be looking for zero unless the market's going to look for zero. Right? So hopefully that's helping. Again, are the pivots going to make you profitable alone? No.
No.
But something you could potentially add to your trading. There it is in the S&P. All right, enough sauce. Let's take a look at crude oil.
Hit the like and we'll go more into it next week.
Right. Here's crude oil. You can look at those pivots as well. But all right, let's get to the crude chart back on Topstep X here and break this down, and then we'll get out of here. It is a Friday. Crude on the weekly, Coach Paul.
Oh my God.
That's a wild week.
Oh, you tell it.
It's a 35% week.
Bottom line, it's extremely bullish. I mean, what the hell? I mean, you don't see too many charts like that.
No.
I mean, I've been around a long time. That weekly chart it's extremely bullish. Because it tried to break early in the week. I mean, what we get down to this week? Back down to the 77 level?
76, 73 was the low of the week. 76, 73 was the low of the week.
And where did we fit? And almost on it. So this is that weekly is extremely bullish. We did the test. And what was it? 77 the low of the week?
76, 73.
Oh yeah. There it is.
What's
that?
That
was a support level on that day.
There you go.
That's one. Anyway, that chart is very, very bullish to me.
Yeah.
You want to get short that? Do it with a tight stop. So momentum. We're finishing on the highs. Just like
crude's finishing right below $100 right now. Continuing to make new highs right now of the day, actually, or about to make new highs of the day. 99.25 last trade here in crude. Markets close in about 3 minutes, but we are still seeing them move around here. One of the interesting things that we saw all week, Coach Paul, was the inverse correlation between the NASDAQ or the equities and crude oil. We started that week with the spike. We started the week with the spike up to about $120. Saw that aggressive sell-off in the equities as crude rallied, gave it all back. President said that the war was going to end soon on Monday, which got us to sell off a little bit more, but right back up to about the middle of the range, closing above it.
And picking up momentum too, as it does.
Yes, it is. Here's last night's action in crude oil. Here's the opening 30 minutes from last night. Decent sell opportunity. Decent sell. It wasn't the cleanest trade ever. It did come back into the range, but a decent sell opportunity if you were going to take it. Again, they don't all work. And ideally, where the risk goes on this is the other side of the range. And if that's where you set it, you never really got stopped out of this trade. You got impatient with it, but it still did work out to a 2-to-1 once volume left that range. Again, not an easy trade. Very, very aware of this, but got in the zone of that 200 moving average.
And what happened there at that time?
Highest volume of the
Frame
day.
that out. There is. What kind of trade is that?
Got a little J trade going on there.
It was a J trade. By the way, that was J trade was around the pivot of 93.84.
Put the puzzle pieces together. That's our job.
Then we watch when we got over session VWAP, never turned back. So there was a few different ways. I will not get short crude oil. You can go down without me. I saw that last night. I'm like, I wanted to take it, but and we've seen this. What's leading this is the war.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you just see it doesn't last. This breaks don't last long. By the way, we just made a new low on the NASDAQ at the
crude made new highs. 100 contracts just filled right at the high there in crude, 99.30s, and the NASDAQ on its lows. Sunday's open is going to be very interesting. Events over the weekend are going to tell us a lot. Scotty B has his work cut out for him. Yeah. Treasury trying to keep oil prices down. We'll see. One way to keep oil prices down, we said that earlier in the week. And if that is not the case, then I think we continue to see this rally. Anything else you got on oil, Coach Paul?
That's it.
That is it. W's in the chat, Flash Golden. Again, hopefully anything we're saying here is helping you with your trading process. I'm always curious, your feedback on the information that we're providing. You join us every day, but feel free to give us your feedback, any questions that you have. If we're helping you, it's good to know that as well. So keep doing what we're doing. Ideally, what we do with these sessions is help you realize some of these trades in real time. And it's really not a trade. It's helping you kind of realize the flow of the market. I think flow has been a word that we've used, Coach Paul, and we hear order flow all the time, but just really reading the flow of the market, trying to figure out what it's telling us it wants to do, and then finding our place in the middle of it. So again, hopefully all of you joining are getting something from that. Any markets you want to talk about, Coach Paul, before we get out of here? We had some questions about some currencies. Australian dollar here was the specific one.
Look, is that a daily?
Mm-hmm.
So it is, there's obvious, it's finding balance on a longer term.
Yeah.
Right. So we're channeling sideways, but look at the size of the candle today. So we're getting some liquidation.
This JP Morgan got long the dollar.
Yeah. Now we did that. And was it? Oh, did the currencies roll today?
Coach Hoop, did the currencies roll today? He'll know because you're looking at that volume there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So either way, we're under the 20, which is flattened out. Watch that 50 moving average. Then we see the 20 curling. Now we're day traders. Let's look at this 30-minute. Starting last night.
This is that white line up there. It applies wherever you apply it to.
Okay, so the opening is the 30-minute now. No, we did have a rally. We had buying. All right. All right, we test the 200. This is one I got. Like these breakouts, when it closed back under VWAP, those buyers
stuck.
This is and a collapse. So and then the breakout and it really never, maybe for a brief moment, it closed above the session VWAP. Look at that. And now JP Morgan sold them right into the close. Yeah, that's damage
Yeah.
for bulls. And to me, damage means there's liquidation, there's profit taking, whatever you want to call it. That flow has changed. It hit the dam, and
Yeah.
then now it's being redirected. So some great trade there. There's been such good trades. I can't keep
Across the
up with
board. Yeah, there's almost too many. There's almost too many, but you only need a couple. Again, we cover a bunch of different markets. Part of the reason we cover so many markets is because, you know, what we want to show is that if you can identify a strategy, you can apply it wherever it's presenting itself. Right? We saw some people earlier in this week saying the equities were tough to trade because of the chop. Today was a little bit cleaner, but you could look at another chart and see what's going on if you're identifying the flow of the market, right? The flow of the market in the euro currency, which I have up here, is clearly to the downside, right? Earlier in the week, we rejected off the 200 moving average, and what's been happening since, price and volume below it and continuing to trend lower. Why I love reading volume, because there has to be some market participant, and usually a pretty big one, in every market that we trade that has the intention of making money. If we can read what their intentions are, we can hopefully make some money with them. But I think we did it, Coach Paul. It is a Friday. Anything else you got before we get out of here?
Yeah, get some rest this weekend. Spend a little time, an hour alone. Review your trading process. Identify where you're going wrong. That's where you find improvement. And I'll say this again. When I did that, I was like, who the hell made this trade? It wasn't me.
Yeah.
That was, I can't. Then you start taking responsibility. Even more, the discipline comes from recognizing it, not from beating yourself up. Like, now, if I stop doing this negative, and then you go, now you're taking out 50% of losses. And notice I don't say you're taking your losses, you're eliminating them, but it's the ones that you made out of fear, of staring at the screen. That's where improvement comes. But that improvement doesn't come until you do the act. So spend a little bit of time, review without the market open.
Yeah.
So you're not distracted.
Yep.
And then you can begin to improve. You improve your plan. When you improve your plan, you improve your performance. So finally, plan your trade your plan, have a good weekend.
There you go. There's a question here from Seekin in the chat. How do I get rid of the feeling that I don't catch the top, that if I don't catch the top or the bottom, then my risk will be too much for me? Seekin, the first thing you have to do is accept the fact that the top or the bottom of a move is not meant for you. You don't get to create it. You don't get to choose when the market is going to make a top or a bottom. There's probably a bigger market participant out there that is choosing that. That's what my trading mentor used to say all the time. Accept the fact that the top and bottom of the market isn't meant for you. You can use it as a risk limiter, and maybe you scale down, size down. But accept the fact that in your entire trading career, you'll probably be able to count on one hand how many times you sell this exact high or buy the exact low. How do you know it's the high or the low? It's what we do here all the time. This is actually a J trade on a 3-minute chart. If we look at the regular trading hours in the NASDAQ, why do you think we have the rule that it has to close outside this candle? Here's the highest volume 3-minute candle outside of the open. It sets the high. How do I know that's the high? I don't. But once it closes below that, now this is where I fit, right? This is my spot to start to interact with the markets. And then my risk goes above that high. So accept the fact that you're not going to catch the high most times and trade small. But that's what I got there. We got coaches doing classes in Discord. Coach Hoop doing his class in Discord at 6 p.m. Eastern time. And then after that, enjoy your weekends, everybody. Really wild week in the markets. We got more volatility coming up. Make sure you join Anne Marie for the Sunday kickoff. to see how these markets open up and what might happen. Any updates on what happens over the weekend. Then we got Dakota for slow markets. And Aaron is back with the London Open next week. D with the metal markets, and then we'll back for the opening call, 8:15 Eastern time on Monday. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Say birthday shout out to my big sister. Happy birthday! Gonna go celebrate right now. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. Do something fun, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Ciao.